Making Sense of Adulties. It is not your boy, Radio Rod. Today, it is your girl, Courtney, and I've got some girlfriends with me today because we are doing a girls takeover. Taking over the podcast.
As we should.
But go ahead, y'all introduce yourselves.
I'm Kenize. This is my second time being on Making Sense of Adulting. That's how much they like me. They brought me back. I'm a photographer in Nash, and I've been here 2 years.
Cool.
Okay, I am Junie's girlfriend.
Here
she loves to introduce me. Yes, the one and only. I've lived in Nashville for about 3 years. I moved from New York, and this is my first time on the podcast.
Okay, but now you got to say your real name. Say your real name, because you're not just Junie's girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm
Don't
Shaina.
Shayna. There we go.
There we
And we have, if you're tuning into the YouTube channel, we have my dog here, Mr. Goodlow, bringing the male energy. So, but he's kind of feminine, if we're being honest. But today we're just going to talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about because we're girls.
We have a lot to say, let me tell you what.
But I think how we're going to start this episode is, I don't know if you guys keep up with the podcast, but the boys did a guy talk episode, and there was some stuff said that we don't agree with. So we're just gonna get into that, and mostly about the relationship aspect.
Yeah.
Because they make women seem cruel a little bit
And crazy.
and crazy.
And crazy, yes.
But like boys are crazy,
Yeah.
right?
I have so many thoughts on this.
Well,
Today.
they're also insecure, some of them, you
Yes.
know, and they project that on you, and it's like, what I do.
And I think mental health is such a stigma with men that like the self-awareness and stuff isn't there because they don't pour into like healing or learning their triggers and things like that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because I think like you're right. Like mental health for guys is weird almost. Like they don't like to talk about their feelings to other people other than maybe their partner.
Right.
Like I can't imagine, and I might be wrong because I'm not there, but like I can't imagine boys sitting on a couch. Like you know how when you hang out with your girlfriends, you talk about real crap and you're like, well,
All the time, yeah.
this is happening and this is happening and I don't feel like stuff is going my way, or you talk about your relationship. Like boys don't do that.
Right. And we can sit and like literally like cry to
Yeah,
your
have a
friends.
cry
We can get into like
session.
deep conversation.
Yeah.
Dudes don't do that. Like I've talked to Trey about this so many times, like how his brain works versus mine. And like sometimes I'll be like, what do you think about right now? Just out of curiosity. And he's like, nothing. And I'm like, but like, you know, what's like on the back of your mind? He's like, literally, I'm thinking about nothing. Like they just function different than us. That's what I believe.
You see,
like I just don't think that they
Right.
like think or feel the way we do.
Boys don't think.
Literally, they do, but
So I'm like,
all right.
that's probably why they don't sit around and talk because they're just like actually watching football.
Okay,
and
but
just,
this is interesting. So you said that you ask Trey what he's thinking about, like when they look like they're in deep thought, because I do that to my boyfriend too. But I read this article and it makes me feel really bad about myself because it was like things men hate.
Oh, great.
And on the list was when their girlfriend asks them what they're thinking about.
I just want to know because sometimes if he's being quiet, I'm like, you know, because I'm thinking about so many things at once all of the time. Like I'm thinking about, I don't even know, like I don't know, when can I get my passport? Where's my birth certificate? And I'm watching a show with him, but like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just thinking about nothing?
I mean, sometimes I think about nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm telling you guys, this could be my anxiety, but I do not ever think about nothing.
Really?
I've never just sat and had like nothing on my mind.
Even when you're like watching a TV show?
And I think that's, yeah. I don't know why. Like maybe I can be like watching it, but in the back of my mind, I can be thinking like, don't forget to set your alarm or something. I swear it's probably anxiety mostly, but that's why I ask
sounds
him.
like stress.
Right. So that's why I ask him because I'm like, I feel crazy with how the fact that I'm always thinking about something. So, and then that's when I realized like they're capable. But one time I saw this video of a guy explaining men and women's brains. And he said women's brains are like spaghetti because they're just like all intertwined and one thought can lead to another. And men's are like waffles and there's a bunch of empty boxes. And then there's like sports box,
Waffles.
sex box, whatever.
Sports box.
So it's like sometimes
Wait, I think I know the boxes.
yeah, like you know what I mean.
Sports box, sex
Yep.
box, thinking about nothing
Food.
box,
Food box.
food box.
in there. Yeah.
Xbox.
Yep, that's literally it.
But you see, I feel like I don't have that problem because like Junie's very in touch with his emotions. I feel like
I mean,
like
that is
sometimes
true.
he's too emotional.
Junie is a different breed.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes he'll be like, "What are you thinking about? Like, what's got you like in this mood?" I'm like, "Dude, nothing. Like, I'm just sad."
So you're more okay.
So that's how I am too. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
So my boyfriend is very in touch with his feelings too.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of more reserved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
okay.
Because of the past and what I've been through. And so I struggle, and I tell him this, and I feel so bad. Like, he'll sit there and say, like, well, what are you thinking about? Because I'm just sitting there, like, looking at him. I'm like, oh, crap. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking about
Right,
because
yeah.
I don't want to be completely vulnerable and get hurt.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way, but he is an open book. I've been working on it because I really do love him so much.
Right.
But I think, like, I can almost relate to a guy
Right.
because they might be scared to open up because they're at the end of the day, they're human. We're all human. We all have feelings. I think they just have a harder time expressing it.
And I think they're shamed from a really young age. So like, you know, even like boys don't cry or like stuff like that that's
Yeah.
said when you're a kid. So then they feel like they're not supposed to be vulnerable or, you know, so they might actually be. And this is something like Trey's pretty open and pretty like sensitive for the most part, but not like super overly, I guess, where I've had to like work with him where he'll just be like, no, I'm good, babe. I'm fine, babe, for a really long time. And then one day be like, you know, this really made me feel this way when you talk to me like this about this. But it's like something we've talked about like 10 times, and it took 10 times for him to say, hey, this actually bothers me. And I'm like, why don't you just tell me, you know? But it takes a lot longer for them to like show that something is bothering them because they're supposed to be tough all the time. So I just think it really ties into like us normalizing, which is happening more, like men's mental health and stuff like that.
And like vice versa from that. I think that there's a stigma around women and how we are, and that's why we get the rap of, oh, they're crazy,
Sensitive, emotional.
Yeah.
which is not all that true.
Or like, is she
Right.
on her period? That's why she's acting like this. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
excuse me.
yes,
That's always that.
Yeah.
but I do use that as an excuse sometimes.
Right. But like we have the right to because we,
Yeah.
you know, have to go through it every month for most of our life. So
Yeah.
like give us one thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, let me have my one.
can I complain once a week?
Once a week.
Like, I mean, once a
Once a month?
A month, yeah. This is more like
I
once
hope
a
you
week.
don't have it once a week. That would suck.
Like, go to a doctor. No, I
Wait.
completely agree, though.
So, I know you said that there was something you wanted to talk about that the boys talked about. Do you remember
Yeah.
specifically what they said?
Yeah, so this is just one part. They shared, the reason why I wanted to talk about this specific part of the boys episode last week was because they actually shared the clip on their social media. So even if you didn't get to hear the whole episode, maybe you saw it on social media, like just the preview or whatever. But basically, Rodney had just said something regarding like your past. And he said, like, if I'm out with a girl and I try to hold her hand and she like hesitates to hold it or pulls it away. And then she's like, oh, well, my ex-boyfriend like didn't want to hold my hand in public. And he's like, well, too bad. Like, I'm not your ex-boyfriend. Like, get over it. It's in the past. You don't need to let that run you. And I understand where he's coming from with the fact of like, yeah, some people do use their past as an excuse or a crutch. And you know, that's a different topic. And I can understand how like you should work to not bring your past up. But that particular situation, for example, that girl could have gone through trauma with her ex-boyfriend. She was used to someone who maybe disregarded her or wasn't proud to be with her, didn't want to show her off, whatever. And then when she's with somebody, now a healthy relationship, which we can relate to, that's what I'm going through, being divorced so young and now in my first and only ever healthy relationship or example of a healthy relationship. You naturally have these triggers where you don't mean to, but you're have literal neural pathways that were created in your brain for certain things, and you have to actually unlearn them and create like new pathways. And that's what I'm working through in therapy, understanding that this isn't like an overnight thing. So she was probably triggered and didn't mean to be, but was like, sorry, I'm so used to that. Like, I'm not used to somebody. So it's not like something where you can just say, get over it. That's in your past. Like, I'm not your ex. That is, in my opinion, an unhealthy and like emotionally immature approach because like with Trey, I have triggers all the time in honesty. I mean, I can't help it because I was in a almost 5-year marriage and went almost very quickly into a new relationship, but I didn't mean to. And we've been together a year now, but like I still very much have things where he has to be able to communicate and I have to be honest and say, hey, this is why I reacted that way. I don't mean to. But I'm actively healing. I'm actively in therapy and I'm actively trying to be better and not be triggered anymore. So I understand Rodney saying like if someone's not working on healing from those things and they're just like letting it be a personality trait, that's different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's if you have things that trigger you, and boys can have them too.
Yeah, and
It's
they do.
not
They just don't.
right.
They're not self-aware sometimes about the fact that that is a trigger.
And they
Right.
don't
They don't
figure that out.
They don't
Right.
figure it out, so
Yeah.
they just keep doing it. And we can tell them 10 times. It might take us 10 times to tell them, like, hey,
Yeah.
stop
Right.
doing that.
Yeah.
But they don't like to talk about it. And I think what it boils down to, a healthy relationship, and I think we are all in that right now.
Which is a blessing that there's 3 women in one room that are all in a healthy relationship.
Yes.
That's why we couldn't find what to talk about.
In this day and age.
Yeah, what do we talk about? Because we all are happy and healthy and
Right.
working on ourselves. I don't know.
Literally.
But that's growing up. That's adulting for
It
you
is.
right there.
Making sense of adulting.
But I think that how you get to that space, so how you get to be in a healthy relationship, how you get over those triggers is communication.
100%.
It is all about communication. Some of my friends back home constantly ask me, like, how do you date a touring musician? Like, isn't that scary? And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not scary at all.
But there is a stigma around that because, you know,
Right. But
what they're known for.
we have great communication.
Yep.
He keeps me updated. I trust him. Now, if we didn't have those things, we probably would have already broken up.
Exactly.
You know? Especially with my triggers from my past. But I'm like working on it, and if something bothers me, I say it
Right.
because I'm going to
Yes.
communicate it.
Okay, and coming off of that, having a safe space to do that. Like with my ex, I was so ignored all the time. Like I would pour my heart out, and he would be like, "You've been talking for 15 minutes, and I really want to take a nap." That would be like the things he would say. And so, or he would get so mad that I was talking so much, he would like break something, and it would be a fight, right? So that's what I was used to. With Trey, he's created such a healthy, safe space for me where I feel always heard, always seen, always validated, that now I feel like I can say, hey, it bothers me when you do that. Also, I've worked so hard on myself that I'm very secure on my own in every way. So like, I don't feel like I need a relationship. I want one, which is a whole different perspective for me, like not being codependent. So for me, it's like, hey, this bothered me. And I'm really like I'm not going to like take any kind of behavior where I might feel this type of way or whatever. So like, I have no problem saying it now. Whereas before I was so terrified of someone leaving me or I was so codependent that I didn't feel safe to like really speak my mind because I was like, if I say that, he's either going to get angry or probably leave. So I think it's so important with healthy relationships, communication, but to have that safe space is like, I mean, it's a game changer because you don't ever feel judged or scared or, you know.
Okay, so I guess a question we can talk about is how much is it okay to talk about your past with your new partner?
Yep.
That's
I
a
like
good
that
question.
one. That's good.
Because I have
Right.
definitely abused that in the past. So I'll give you a little breakdown. I dated what I thought was gonna be forever, for a long time through college, and then we broke up. Really needed to break up. Super toxic. And then I quickly jumped into a new relationship because the guy was everything that my ex wasn't. And in that relationship, I found myself talking about my ex all the time.
Yeah.
And like what I went through, dissecting it, but leaning on him and looking back on it, that was not fair
Yeah.
at all.
And I have definitely done that with Trey. Like it does take some self-awareness to look back and like admit that.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel that way in the moment, but I really believe it's like the going really quickly after because like my ex left in August, Trey and I met in like beginning of October, started talking. I didn't want anything to do with the relationship, but by like end of November we were already like talking, and then we started like officially dating throughout like December, January. So it's like it was so quick after a marriage. Like when I think about the timeline, but it was one of those things that like it was supposed to happen that way. But when it's that soon, you're so fixated on it because that is your current reality. And like, you're just adjusting to the fact that you're not with that person anymore. And I mean, like in all honesty, like sometimes things would happen and I would be like, in my mind, I'd be like, oh, we went there before. And then I was like, oh, we didn't go there.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, this was our
Yeah.
song. Oh, this wasn't our song. But it's because you've been with the same person for so long that you're like, oh, this person is not them for
Yeah.
good reason, but it's just, this is what I mean with like the rewiring your brain.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's really good and self-aware to like admit that, but it's so unintentional at the time.
Yeah.
And I know I really did that in the beginning and was really like took it out on Trey when it wasn't his fault. Like, well, you know what I've been through, so like I'm sorry, but like this is why I push you away but like he's just taking it and he's like, I mean, I know, but like, you know, how long is this gonna be?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know.
And you're like trying to get them to understand, because you do equally want to be with them and be in a healthy relationship as much as you want to like get over the past, but it's really hard to like manage both.
Yeah. Well, in my situation, like with Junie, like there was a song that came on and he's like, we can't listen to that. My ex dedicated that song to me, so we can't listen to it. And it's like, that was my favorite song. I want to jam out, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I told him straight up too. I was like, listen, if you have stuff to deal with, which is perfectly okay, you can deal with that. I was like, but I don't think it's fair for you to string me along and for me to like pay that consequence.
Right.
Because all I've done to you was treat you right.
Right.
So why am I being held accountable almost? Because we've been in certain situations too where he's like, he'll like accuse me of something. And it's like, whoa, buddy, that was not me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Completely understand.
So in that situation, I'm like completely fine with him talking about his past and stuff like that. But sometimes it's like, okay, buddy, do you want space on your own time? Like, you know, do you need to figure yourself out?
And it is
know?
hard because there are triggers like the song, and sometimes like a certain song will come on or something, and it's like a gut punch for me.
Yeah.
Like my wedding dance song or something. And it's not something that's easily where I'm just like I've changed it before at work or whatever, where I'm like, I just can't relive that. So I can like understand, but I wouldn't probably vocalize that. I wouldn't be like, oh, this was mine and my husband's song, so can we not? Like I probably wouldn't say that.
Right.
I'd probably just like subconsciously be like, hey, can we listen? Hey, remember this new song? I really want to listen to it. And like just kind of see if there's a way they can change it where like they don't have, because I feel like there's some triggers that don't have to be
announced.
because it can be over.
Yeah, it can be
overdone,
too much.
You know?
So it's like we're living in this like shadow, and this is our problem in the beginning that I had talked to him about. I was like, this has to be resolved because this is not okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm not that girl, and this just cannot move to the relationship you want it to be if you keep holding us back like this.
Yeah.
And if your past keeps going with us, because that's got to stop. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Like,
So I think that in a healthy relationship, where you have good communication skills, it's appropriate to say that triggers me, but you don't have to give the why.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know?
Not always. It's just
Not always. You don't have to give the why. And I've realized that. Like, I don't talk about my ex. I don't share anything about what I dealt with to Reed. I don't. Because I think I'm fully healed. But now the guy before Reed heard it all. He got the earful. And I'm not with him anymore.
Right.
You know? And so I think it's just like figuring out that balance, because they don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What about this? Has this ever happened to y'all? I just thought of something.
no, I saw her
here
face.
we go.
A guy
Yes.
calling you the wrong name.
Oh my God, that happened to you?
Oh yeah, let's break it down. What would you do?
It has happened to me one time.
I would have been like, mic drop. I'm out.
Like
Also-
calling you their ex. How about that? Their ex-girlfriend's name, because that is
What was the
happened.
context of the situation? Was it like in the middle?
Of like,
was
you
not
guys getting
It was not dirty. It was not a dirty situation. We
Okay.
were in a serious conversation.
And he like said, oh my gosh.
Was it like, was he talking really fast, or it was like, oh, blah, blah, or
And it just like
yeah,
came out.
it was really
That
quick. I got a little offended, and I was like,
I would be offended too.
"What?
That happened to me once too, but the guy was drunk and he was like, "Calm down," like said her last name or said her name, and then I was like, "Did you just really call me like her?" And he was like, "Okay, it doesn't even matter. Don't worry about that." And like kept talking. And I'm like, "So like that's what's on your mind when you're drunk?" But that was like a college. It wasn't serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your situation serious?
It was like a serious conversation. We were under the influence.
Oh.
I feel like that
But
does play a part.
I think what was happening was he was telling like a story about something, and she had been there.
So he like was thinking maybe.
Right. So it was like, do I get upset? Do I not get upset? I mean, I got fucking upset, but like,
Yeah.
Oh my
that's
God,
hard. If it would, it's only happened to me once. If it kept happening, there's like no way I would be
No.
able to do that.
Yeah.
Because
Grandpa called Trey my husband's name once.
oh no.
Oh.
It was so bad.
Family.
He was like, "Hey, what?" You know, and then they're like, and my great grandma all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't expect you to remember. I mean, she's like in her 90s, but I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. I'm like, I don't even know what to do in this situation. That's off topic, but
What about when they still have their ex's pictures
Oh,
their
on the
phone?
phone.
Okay, wait.
I don't know if Reed does because
I've
haven't
never
seen his
gone.
camera
Have
roll.
you guys? Okay, I just am
Yeah.
curious because I know this is very common.
Yeah.
I have never, and this is why it took me so long to find out I was being cheated on so many times. Ever gone through anybody I've dating's phone? Never once. Not even tried. And I don't know if that's because I knew that I would get my feelings hurt, or what.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Why?
So how I found out that I was being cheated on too was I went through the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
But
did
ever
too.
since then, I refuse to
because
touch
it's
it.
like triggering.
Like there'll be a
I-
message that pop up and I'll be like, look,
No, literally,
everywhere
I made a
else
TikTok
except
about
the
that
phone.
went viral because
Yeah.
I was like, when he opens his his phone in front of
Yeah,
me,
literally
I'm
look
like, I would
anywhere
rather
else.
go blind, baby,
Yeah.
whatever that sound
Yeah.
was at the time.
by Etta James.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, if they open the phone, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
and even if Trey's like, here, can you put this song? And I'm like, I really think you should.
I'm
do
like,
it.
are you sure you want me to unlock your phone? Like,
It's like that's. Man.
But I'm not scared to like go on Reed's phone and if I have to pull something up, I'm not scared to do that because I trust him.
Right.
Now, let's rewind to college Courtney, crazy ass Courtney, because I was fucking psycho, like I'll admit it. But I had to be. Because I think I caught my ex in so many dirty lies just by opening his phone.
Oh yeah. Okay, but you want to hear a funny story?
What?
Speaking of social media,
yeah.
I like to look back on my trauma sometimes, because of just the growth.
Yeah.
So, my ex-husband, when we were engaged, he was in the military, so he went to a different island training, and he came back, and my friend, okay, so I'm from a small town in California. This was in Hawaii. My friend had matched with someone with his pictures, okay? Yeah. So she messaged me.
With his pictures?
Imagine this, my only friend from my tiny hometown that happens to live in Hawaii too. Yeah. They were on a different island, and somehow this account that had my ex's pictures matched with her on a different island. That doesn't happen. It's too far apart.
Yeah.
So was like God's timing, but I didn't listen. So she comes to me and is like, hey, I think he has a Tinder, but it was a different name. But it was like every picture on it was a picture I had taken, or it was a picture of him shirtless, right? So I confronted him about it. He was like, text all my friends, texted them all vouched for him with no boy.
Of course.
That's a
Of
red
course.
flag.
Text
But
my friends.
I was like,
what I was doing.
He was like, they took my social media pictures. I was like, but this picture is you shirtless. Like, this is on social media. He really said, I airdropped that to my friends to show them my gains. And my ass believed that. And then he came like a year or two later, was like, oh yeah, that was me. Yeah, he actually had a Tinder. I was engaged and I was at home like rearranging the house. I built him a desk and stuff while he was gone, and he straight up had a Tinder.
Yeah.
And
my
I believe that crap.
Yeah.
My ex had a Bumble, so he made this Bumble account. He told me about it too. Like, he went to Colorado and was like, "Oh, we have to make a Bumble to like get into this bar." And
He
I'm
told
like,
me his friends made it as a competition to see who'd get too many matches, and my ass really bought that. I mean, like, why did they say these things to us? And we're so
But I believe
in
it.
love. We believe it.
yeah, because I was doing anything for this guy, but yeah,
Literally.
he's making dating accounts while he's in a different city.
And I defended him like to my death. I like stopped talking to this girl over it until later when I was like, I just want to apologize because it really was his.
Oh, because you were like mad at her.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe you would think he would do that. Like,
Yeah,
that's not
and
Yeah.
him.
this is just us reliving our toxic days
Yeah.
and trauma, because I swear with my ex-boyfriend, he could tell me, he could kill someone and get away with it with me.
Yeah.
And I'd believe it,
Oh,
you know? Because that was how stupid I was, because I was so blinded by love. And that is so unhealthy. If there is even remotely any red flags like that, trust your gut, because my
Yep.
gut was saying, screw this.
So many times.
Yeah.
Mm.
But my heart was like, oh, he's telling me these things. It's fine. It's true. Like he's
Yeah.
not lying.
Were you in any toxic or like unhealthy relationships before, Ginny?
Oh yeah, girl.
Oh, yeah.
Like I saw red flags and I was like, what color is that? That looks like a red heart to me, you know? Like I used to live with my ex-boyfriend.
Right.
Because we thought we would save money living downtown and
Right.
all that stuff. And I had a good feeling that he was cheating on me because he had pictures of me on his Instagram, and then all of a sudden they just went down
Wait, while y'all were dating?
while we were dating.
My ex
no.
loved to archive our pictures when he was out of town. I
Yeah.
was like, that's so funny.
When he was out of
And he would
town?
say, I don't know why they're not loading. I don't know. My Instagram's broken.
Yeah, and I literally like gave him a gift because he was turning 30 that year, and you would think older men would be better, but no. So I took him to Puerto Rico and he took no pictures of us together. Like if I would be in the frame, he would jump over me. And
What?
yeah, it was terrible. And then I had a good feeling too where I thought he was cheating. And he cheated on me in our own apartment.
What?
Yeah.
How did you like?
I snooped through his phone. I was like, I have a gut feeling that he's not being truthful to me, because when I asked him like, why are our pictures down, he was just like, oh, I'm just a really private person.
Oh, that's the line.
And
That's
I
the
was
one
like,
we always hear.
okay. I was like, yeah, you know, privacy. You know, I get that.
They
And
always
then-
say, I'm really a private person, but me and my 7 fish I caught this year, they're going to make it to the gram.
Oh my gosh!
I was like,
wait.
okay.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about this. Actually,
Me and my car, like, that's not private. Here's my license plate number.
What about this though? So when my ex-boyfriend was cheating on me, I got cheated. This is so shameful of me to say. I have grown so much and I love myself so much more. I think I got cheated on probably almost 13 times by this man, and I would go back
Did you know
every
about them
single
all
time.
after they would happen?
Oh
or-
yeah. Oh
okay.
yeah. Because I'd figure it out because I
Right.
was a freaking PI at that point.
That's right. As you should.
But I would get so livid because he didn't hide me. So these girls.
were aware of you.
Oh, 1,000%.
I
And I
hate
knew
that.
them. And I knew
hate
them.
that.
That's the worst part. They all
Yeah.
went to my college and they knew I was his girlfriend.
That's
And you know what's worse is
disgusting.
it's the girls with the mentality of like, well, like he was in my bed last night. So
Right,
that's what
like
I heard
he
a
was
girl
in
say
my
once.
DMs,
I heard a
like-
girl
Like,
say
they're
that once.
I
gross.
hate that.
Absolutely scum of the earth.
Disgusting.
I would say that about a female. I don't
Girl
care.
power, where's that?
I'm a woman. If I was
Yeah.
the scum of the earth, you could call me the scum of the earth.
Yeah.
But guess
Yeah.
what? I'm not.
I don't understand anybody
Yeah.
that can't have each other's backs. Like if no, like men will literally lie their face off for their bro with
Yeah.
no context of what the situation is. That's why they have that TikTok trend where you like call them and are like, "Hey, where is he?" And they lie and they're right next to him. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen that?
Yeah.
But like women, I don't know, man. There's 2 types of women, and one of them like is like pick me girl, and I hate to use that, but we all know what that is.
There's
and
a
I just
lot
feel
of
like
them,
that's
yeah.
like they'll take the attention from the guys over loyalty to a girl because it makes them feel good about themselves.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like girls will think a guy is hot and they will not care about anything else. Yeah. But I think
Oh.
as you get older, I hope and pray it gets better. I don't know.
I
don't
don't
either.
I think it'll get more complicated because, and I hate to say it because like I'm so for women and like, you know, you do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
But like some girls, especially younger girls, and I have a younger brother too, like they will like use them to take advantage, like, oh, buy me this purse. Or
Yep.
and I feel like if you get older, these younger girls would approach your boyfriend or your husband and be like, oh, you want to buy me a flight to come see you, you know, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, there's skeevy old men out there too, you know.
This is my question.
I did an old man, so.
Oh shoot, I think I forgot what I was gonna ask you guys, but I had a question for you.
Oh, my gosh.
The dog just leaped and almost knocked over the wine, but we are fine.
Not the
We are all
wine.
fine. He's just real stirred up about this conversation because he would never cheat on his
He's
mom.
like,
No,
I'm
of
feeling she's
course not.
stressed.
Shoot, what was my question? I was gonna ask you guys something about. Dang, what we were just asking about. But I got
Pick me girls.
No, I got off topic. I don't know.
I
lost
guess
it.
like what we could talk about is like, I guess this is the first relationship where I would have to deal with girls actively trying to approach my Junie, like be like, oh hey, like, you know, flirting a little bit, trying to buy him drinks, and I don't have a problem with that, you know.
Yeah, me either.
Go get a free drink, baby cakes, like
Yeah.
do your thing.
And that's because you're in a healthy relationship.
Right.
So
I remembered. Sorry.
I've like
Yeah.
had to look because Reed could tell me a girl is beautiful or hot, and I'm like, yeah, she is. Yeah. You're right. Because at the end of the day, I know that he loves me. He thinks I'm gorgeous.
That
and,
is literally on topic.
you
What I was
know,
gonna say.
and so like you
Yeah.
have to be secure with yourself, and we can talk about those things. I could look at him and say, yeah, that guy's good looking, and he
Right.
tells me, yeah, that girl's good looking, or he'll. Like he was on the road last week and some girls like wrote on a sign for him and like were fangirling.
Right.
And it's like, in the moment, I could have got upset about that, but like, who cares? He's not gonna care about those girls. Like, he cares about me.
Right.
And so, at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The question I was
feel
going to
that.
ask you guys is, have you experienced personally, like, when you're in an unhealthy relationship where you don't feel safe or where you don't feel secure, how you view women was how you viewed women completely different? Because for me, I'm so ashamed to think of the way I talked about girls that like, cause he was in the music industry, like he would like write with and stuff. Like I would be so mean to make myself feel better because I felt so insecure and he had already like, you know, done like went back with his exes or done all these things where it was like, I had reasons to be insecure. And so I was worried all the time and he didn't make me feel like I was who he wanted. So like would view women and like talk down on women all the time because I was like, so like, I guess insecure myself, but also just like didn't feel wanted in that relationship. Whereas now I'm like, I support, where it's like, okay, we're hanging out tonight.
You have
with my
reassurance.
ex, I would have never brought him here because I wouldn't have wanted him to be around 2 other pretty girls. That's how insecure.
Yeah.
Now I don't even think about it now with Trey.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I
even
feel that.
affect me because like that I feel so like he always makes me feel like the one he wants most in the world.
Yeah.
So it's like the only time I did get butthurt was when he told me Jennifer Aniston was his crush because I saw him like her pic and then I was like, wait, she's my crush too. Never mind.
You see,
Never
that's
mind.
funny because I fucking told Junie that, and he's like, "Oh, if Jennifer Lopez was sitting on my lap right now, I would still push her away for you." I was like, "That is a damn lie. You are lying. If Jennifer Lopez was on my lap, I'd be like, okay, girl."
I was like sitting there talking about how I was obsessed with Taylor Lautner my whole childhood.
Yeah.
And I was like, I probably would still fangirl if I met him, even though I think he's really short, but that's besides the point. And then he was like, you want to know who my love is? And then he's like, Jennifer Aniston. He's like, and you watch Friends all the time. And I was like,
Oh, like he likes it.
I was like, never again. And I was so mad the rest of the day. And he's like, babe, you were talking about yours. He's like, but you kind of look like her. And I was like, why? Because I wear claw clips and crop tops. Like, I don't look like her. That's so... You
That's
don't turn
funny.
into a wolf, so you
Yeah.
don't look like him.
But
That's
kind
the
of
only
going
time.
back to what you said, I no, like my opinion about women hasn't changed because, like, you know, it would still be the same girls who are actively trying to, you know, like it's hard to like pick out girls like if you're really trying to get at my boyfriend or you're being very friendly.
Yeah.
You know, because there's some girls who are like super friendly, super bubbly, and you know, sometimes you're like,
It's hard
What's
to be
up?
with an attractive man. I'm not gonna lie. I
Right.
mean, I just don't think like my exes were attractive enough. I don't really know because like being with Trey, it's like
yeah,
I don't know. Like you just catch it all the time.
yeah.
I know
Would
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or like
But-
you might be walking away getting a drink or something, and you'll just like catch
or you'll catch like
or like
girls
tables will
staring.
flirt with him at work, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you also got to think about it on the flip side too, because I get hit on, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I'm
And I'm
just
not
like,
gonna sit here and
whatever.
lie and say I don't. Like, if I go somewhere without Reed,
Oh yeah.
I 100% am getting free
Yeah.
drinks, and I'm telling him about it. But like, I am getting hit on, and so
Yeah.
he knows that,
Right.
and I know that that happens to him too. But
Right.
it's just like the mutual respect. At
Right.
the end of the day, it's like
Also, you're like, hell yeah, and he's not going home with you, baby, so it's all
Right.
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 But also off of that topic, going out, isn't it so, I'm sure you experienced this being in a healthy relationship, but isn't it so empowering to be with someone that like sees you in like a, you know, sexy outfit to go out and is just like, oh my gosh, you look so good. Like Trey was like, who's letting you out of the house like that? Like you're going to be walking around and I don't get to see you out tonight. Everybody else
Yeah.
gets to see you in that cute ass outfit. Like
Yeah.
my ex, it was like, well, you're trying to be a whore. Like
Yes.
that's
Same.
so embarrassing
Yes.
that you would even dress like that. Like who are you? But
They
then
would be like,
the
who would
pics
wife
of the
you?
girls half naked.
Yes. They'd be like, who would wife you looking like that?
I didn't
like,
wear lashes.
you know,
I dressed like a grandma. I was always
Yeah.
covered. Like who I was in my
Cardigans.
marriage. If I show you a picture, you're like,
me wearing a cardigan.
totally different girl. But it's like that's who the pictures they would like. But you can't be that.
Also, like, I would dress a little more provocatively. This was when I was in my toxic relationship.
Piss 'em off.
Not okay. Yes, I would. Like when we would fight, I would go out and I would look hot as shit on purpose, which was fine because I'm allowed to do
Cry
that.
about it.
But he would like say like, oh, who are you trying to show off for?
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? Because you're
Because
probably gonna
that's
go home
their-
with somebody else that looks just like
Yeah.
me.
Oh my god.
So,
And that's their insecurity. That's
Yeah.
their insecurity. So being with a secure man is a big difference too.
100%.
And that's why it's important for us to be secure because you know men view it the same way. Being with
Yeah.
a secure woman versus insecure, it's probably the same way we view it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know what I always like to say and I think about if a guy is getting mad at you for something, it's because they're doing it. That's my thought 100%. Like my ex, I used to go out, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're going to go home with some guy?"
Yeah, you're
And
gonna
you're
go
like,
cheat on me.
Oh, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%." Not because no. And then
They're doing
I
it
figured
behind your
out.
back.
He was doing it all the time.
Yep. You know, one time when my
guilty
ex was
conscience.
deployed, he never wears a ring or anything. He
Yeah.
gave all these girls a different name so they couldn't find him on social media and find out they were married. And then they all somehow found me still and told me the name he was using, like out at bars, so that they couldn't find him on social media. Even though he had already archived all our pictures, like they might find me somehow because we're good.
Yeah.
And it took like then he had to go.
good.
He had to go to this office one
Yeah.
time, and one of the girls he had lied to about his name was there, and he had to give his real information like for the military because he had to check in something, and he had to like admit to this girl and apologize that he'd been like lying about his name the whole time. And all those girls were magically blocked on my phone, by the way. When after we separated, I went to my Instagram blocked and found
Yeah.
all these random girls blocked from my phone.
Honestly,
Wait,
it's
like he did it?
Yeah, because I don't know
that
them.
takes so much work. Like,
I
what
know,
are you
lying,
doing?
I'm like-
Yeah, like coming up with different lies.
I'm like just in the relationship, which he did. So
yeah,
finally figured it
Jesus.
out, I guess. I'm
Oh
like,
my
What kind of
Save us
breed
both a
of
lot
a
of
man
time.
is that?
But isn't it funny? Like these stories make me laugh now because at the
Yeah.
time, so devastating. But now I look back and there's so much growth and stuff that I can actually laugh because I'm like, it's so sad that I was put through these things, but also
Yeah.
it's actually like so nice to feel so secure in myself now that I'm like, I would never put up with. I would never.
Yeah.
I'm telling you one thing, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Because I'm so happy on my own. I love traveling on my own. I love my businesses. I'm financially secure on my own. I love doing everything with myself. So you're just a positive addition that I want
Right.
to spend time with.
Right.
Or if you're not, if you're bringing me like trauma or stress or unhappiness, then I don't want it. And that goes for relationships, family, jobs, everything now. And I think
Everything.
there's just that point, like 25, where I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not really going to put my energy into that.
I think
Yeah.
especially as a woman, when you grow and you get older, you start to realize and you know your worth. And I think that's somebody at work actually told me this. It's like the second you know your worth, Courtney, is when you are the most powerful thing.
You're
And
unstoppable.
it's scary.
Yep.
You know, because
That
it's
is so
true.
true.
The second you know your worth, you won't put up with the BS anymore, and you're going to do what you want to do. At the end of the day, you're right. A relationship should be an addition. Friends should be an addition to your own
A
happiness.
positive one.
And I think as women, it's hard to figure that out because we do have all these outside voices telling us what we should look like, what we should do,
Always.
how we should act. But at the end of the day, you got to be yourself, be happy with yourself, love yourself, and then everything else will come.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great episode.
Yeah.
That was
I
pretty
knew we'd
good.
find something to talk about.
We just talked and rambled for about almost 40 minutes. So
That was a lot about relationships.
yeah, because we could probably talk about that for
Oh, yeah.
24 hours straight.
But
So,
I think leaving this episode, I would say tying it into making sense of adulting. I think a huge part of adulting and like making sense of like your 20s
Yeah.
is finding yourself growing. And you have to make mistakes. You have to go through the bad things because if I had never been through, if you had never been through, if you had all of the things that we have, we would never be the women we are today that are powerful and secure and know our worth. And it's because of that insecure 19-year-old that was getting cheated on that
Yeah.
didn't understand what that looked like. Now we can be who we are or we wouldn't be, you
Yeah.
know? So
bam.
Yeah.
that's adulting.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to the girls episode. It's your girl, Courtney, signing out.
Bye.
Bye.